Hey, everybody. All right, let's turn this down. All right, so living with the benefits. I've done it. The only reason I did this live was just for the heck of it. And in respect and honor to those who are suffering from some unbelievable heat, I am wearing a t-shirt. In uh, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll think of it right now. Okay, so what do I mean by environment? If you looked up environmental resilience, you would not get this definition anywhere. I made this one up. Most of it has to do with some sort of emergency management sense. In other words, if a flood came through and wiped out Langley, how fast could they be up and doing business? In part, that's true. I don't know how. So I'll use this example. I have a friend in North Carolina who was right there at the heart of it. All the damage, unbelievable. And the community is rebuilding, doing all kind of thing. Some things are working, some things are not. One thing that I do know is that the people there have not bounced back as fast. I mean, it's easier when a bunch of people from out of town come and help you rebuild your town. But as my friend said, every time it rains, I'm on edge, meaning I am now ready to bolt because rain means trouble. Rain means death. Rain means destruction, because that's what they got. And in a sense, that's true. The word literally means, and we learned this in ladder testing in the fire service. And so they put a big weight on a ladder, they extend it all the way, put it on horses, put a big weight on it, and that thing has to hold that weight up for X number of minutes or seconds, and then they crank the weight up, and that the rail of the ladder has to pop back up to within, it's either 16th or 8th of where, from the floor to the top of the rail, it has to be, I believe it's a 16th. It has to do that from the original one before they put the weight on it. I said that backwards, but I think you get what I mean. That means, and this is an aluminum ladder. They put a big weight, and I mean 250, and I think then they do 500. And this thing, it is, I got to admit, it's an unusual thing to watch. You just, really? Aluminum can do that? It can do that. So that means, in a sense, to bounce back. Now, it's not bouncing very fast. I don't know what would happen if the weight was quickly removed. That would be a hard thing to accomplish. But here's how I'm looking at this. I see two fields of environmental resilience. One is how I express these resiliences in me. By the time we get around to this module, that integration is beginning to happen. Do I fully inhabit my own space? Space behind me, my bedroom. Does my bedroom look like this room when I got books all over? Does my bedroom, in other words, if I invited somebody from the opposite gender over here, would they feel comfortable? Would they feel warm? Would they feel welcome? If I invited a friend over, it's the same thing. That's what it means by inhabiting my own space. If they walk in here, and I learned this lesson because somebody came over to a house when I was married, and they looked around and looked at all this stuff and said, "Boy, I see your wife, but I don't see you." Oh, wow. Okay, I have to inhabit my space, and if I'm inhabiting it with others, you need to. Anyway, that's what that means. So my space, my body, and then concentrically out beyond me. So the other field is how I pulsate with what's going on here. And there's various levels for that. So this lately, I've been sitting outside in the morning, and here come the crows. And it occurred to me today that as I was eating my lunch, that there were all kinds of baby sparrows waiting for crumbs. And I wasn't eating anything with crumbs, but they were waiting. And I said, oh, if the sparrows have chicks, so do the crows, whatever they're called. Do I flow with the seasons? Do I flow with the changes in the moon? Because if I do, I can begin to track sleeping patterns. I can begin to track habits. I can, if your boss suddenly starts getting cranky, you might just go over and look at the calendar and say, okay, boom, full moon's coming. Isn't that strange? Watch it for the next time. Boom. Okay, there's something going on here. I can't explain to you what that is. I know for me, when the full moon is out, I do not sleep as good. I'm up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's moving with the flow of the seasons. And one of the ways we can do that is how we eat. So this time of year is great for green leafy vegetables, red lettuce, romaine lettuce, butter lettuce. I mean, there's a gajillion of them. We don't get a lot of them at the store, but there's cabbages. I mean, you can get almost anything, really. I mean, we can still get citrus. I tend to lay off citrus in the summer, at least for now, because my tongue doesn't like it. My tongue will tell me when it does. And oftentimes then it will switch and I want apple cider. That sits better with my body. So it's learning to move with that field and pulsate. I've introduced this term before. Pulsating means just like the trees out here are pulsing at the roots to create a vacuum and a suction to bring water all the way up. I mean, the trees across the street, those are like 60 to 80 feet high. And those things have to get water from 80 feet down up the tree. So it's pretty fascinating. That's a pulsation. This is pulsating. My cardiovascular cavity, my stomach pulsates. There's pulsations in the brain. So do I charge and do I discharge evenly in the things that I do throughout the day? In my movement, am I discharging? And going way back to the beginning of what all of this stuff's all about is, if I'm getting charged up in my nervous system, am I discharging? The earth does a bit of that on its own. I think lightning is one of those examples. Am I part of the life and death of the ecosystem that I exist in? I think it's important to be out and about. I mean, I know that there's some lilac trees out here along the fence line that are old. If I had my way, since they're not mine, I would cut them off about the top of the fence and let them resprout from underneath and start these trees all over again. Because these are getting past their age. I got a listeria and cut that way back because it was unmanaged for a while, started to get up underneath the siding, cut it way back. It smells great though. I've got a rosemary on the other side of the patio that also and makes great tea, and I cut that back not last year but the year before last. It could probably use it again. I'm not much of a gardener, but getting out among these things helps me to do that. And now I become a living part of this ecosystem. So I'm aware of what's living and dying around me. Because guess what? In the end, that's what's going to happen to me. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You shall return to the... Yeah. Now, you can, if you'd like, at the University of Washington, you can have yourself fertilizerated. I'm making words up here. They'll turn you into compost. So, and part of me says, oh, well, that's kind of cool. So I'm thinking that's what I might do, because I can actually, dust is dust. I'm going to return to the earth. All right. So it's these concentric circles. Am I pulsating? Am I aware of living and dying? And how does the world around me? Am I moving with the life and death of my friends as we navigate this world? I mean, and here's the thing. We're living in a society. A good friend of mine died recently, and I miss the man. We had good times together. We worked together. We had theater together, and we watched golf together. Strange enough. But anyway, I don't think he played it, and I don't, but we watched it. Anyway, he got sick and ended up in the hospital, and I just never saw him again, because nobody could come up to the hospital to see him except his wife and his son. And our society is good for that. I don't like that. I would prefer if, I could change things out here and I died here and people wanted to come and see me. I remember my friend Chris when he died. It was when I was living at the 5th Street Commons, and Chris was sick. He had Parkinson's, and it just got finally bad enough where it's affecting other things. And so I knew I had to go say goodbye. And I did. I think it was 2 days before he died. But I walked in, made my peace with him. Even though I wasn't at odds with him, I just acknowledged that we may have had our differences, but that I enjoyed his presence in my life to the degree that it was. Wished him farewell and then left. And it was organically fulfilling and awkward at the same time, because I've never done that before. It told me a lot about me, but that is how I want to go. I would hope that my sons would make a place for me, and then I'd die there. Preferably, I want to die in my bed, after a good workout. I won't say that one. Or just die with just of old age. So I don't plan on dying anytime soon. I work hard to make myself live as long as I can. Anyway, this is part of the resilience of moving within the environment in which you live. So the environment here would be what you see can't do that if I blank my picture, but this picture that's whatever, that picture that you saw in the background there, that's my area, that's my neighborhood. I want to pulsate with that. I want to enjoy the sun. And there are days when you're out there on that walk, it's windy, and oh boy, it's windy. Make sure you got a hat. It'll be colder. You could be raining and windy and cold. So you really better, that's when my oil skins come out. One of the best walks ever, and you have to be prepared. Anyway, this is what it means to live with the benefits of healing trauma. This whole series has been about that. I want you to know that these are my experiences from healing, and these are all relatively new to me. Well, Okay, as of, well, they start emerging day one, you start healing. You may not feel them, you may not see them, but they will begin to emerge. Now it's my way of living. I don't deal with my trauma because it's not there anymore. There's no triggers, nothing. That's what it means to heal. And all of these benefits are really health and growth. And your nervous system and your physiology are equipped to get here and stay here. Anyway, if you have any questions, there's my name, Lecky Harrison, at raiseyourresilience.com. That's how you get a hold of me. You can go to my website, get a hold of me there. Okay. I wish you well. Talk to you later. Bye.